Welcome one and all. Here's a little guide into how to get into the MBBS program here at UWI with the elusive government subsidy, right? A sponsored position. We're going to talk about how you get in. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what exactly the subsidy is, what it means to be sponsored, and precisely why we need to be disseminating information about how to get in with a subsidized space, right? Um, I'm not going to be talking too much about the specific admission criteria for MBBS. I uploaded a document that we got from UWI, and it details what you need to apply to MBBS, whether from CAPE, from SciTech, from another degree. Again, don't take my words for it. If you're not sure about anything or anything at all, right, before you act on any of this information, you're going to want to verify it from official sources. Talk to the admissions section at UWI. Talk to somebody over the Faculty of Medical Sciences, right? Because this information is subject to change. This is gathered based on what I've recognized as work for students in the past. So it's the recommended pathway. The recommended pathway. Don't let that slip you. Disclaimer. All right, so let's talk about what it means to be sponsored, right? So quick facts. Medicine, expensive. MBBS and DDS program, they cost 28,000 US dollars every year. Right now in 2020, that's $3.948 million per year. And as soon as the dollar slides again, it's going to increase probably over $4 million. We get that. It's really expensive. But the Jamaican government does subsidize a portion of the tuition, about 80% of it, 55 students. The other 225 or so students, it's 280 in all, have to pay the full fee, right? The sponsored students only pay about $649,823. That's current for this year. The non-sponsored ones have to pay the full fee, but in some cases, they can apply for the 50% bursary from UWI, and they'll only have to pay half the tuition fee, so 14,000 US dollars. It's still a lot, but it's better than paying the full fee, right? But at the end of the day, everybody wants to see, how can I pay less money, right? We're all broke, well, most of us. So how do you get this subsidy, right? There's only 55 spaces per year. How do you become one of these few people? The criteria for getting this government subsidy is to have 29 out of 30 points. These points are correlated to your grades. Those are grades in either CAPE subjects or in courses at the Faculty of Science and Technology. We'll talk about that a little later. So for your CAPE students out there, grade 1 is 5 points, grade 2 is 4 points, grade 3 is C points. Similarly, an A, 5 points, B, 4 points, C, 3 points. Easy idea, right? So you can see if you get 5 ones, you have 25 points. And if you get a 2, you now have 29 points. So you've made subsidy criteria, right? So you want your 3 CAPE subjects at least, biology, chemistry, one other subject that you get to choose. You get 5 ones and a 2 minimum, and you're in for subsidy, right? There's some other requirements just to get into the program in general. You check those out with the admissions criteria that UWI sent out, right? So that's how you get the subsidy. But you have to remember that there are very few spaces, right? In the past, there were more spaces, about 80 to 100, but they've been cut down to just about 55, right? As the program gets more expensive, the government cuts its education budget. So that was bad and not so bad, but it was compounded by the fact that students have been doing better and better in CAPE, right? It looks like CAPE is getting easier. Distinctions don't mean anything anymore, eh? So everybody's coming with distinctions, everybody's coming with straight ones, everybody's coming with 30 points, right? And there aren't enough subsidy spaces to give to everybody. So what's happened in the past couple of years, those students who don't get in, simply because there were a lot more qualified people who came before them, they ended up having to defer to the next year. So if they were in 2016 and the subsidy spaces ran out, those students, say CAPE students, would defer and join the class in 2017, right? But the problem with that is they're going to be taking up subsidy spaces because they're qualified, right? From the class that should be just starting in 2017. So you see a problem coming out, right? And the main thing in order to get the subsidy, grades and timing, right? Once you have the grades and there's a space available, as far as I know, you're getting accepted with the subsidy. Boom. As far as I know, right? So these people who are deferring from previous years because they couldn't get the subsidy in their year and they come into the upcoming years, they're going to leave less subsidized spaces for the students who are coming fresh out of high school. So that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem, we don't just have CAPE students coming in. We have students transferring from prelim, from level 1 or first year in SciTech. They're also qualifying for the subsidy, some bright sparks coming through there, right? And they're getting their grades as early as May. They're applying to MBBS. They're transferring, getting the subsidy. All this before CAPE students even get their first grades, well, their last Unit 2 grades in August, right? So subsidy spaces are drying out, in a sense. They're running out. And it's gotten so bad, all of these issues compounded together, that from 2018, which was my year group, according to all the students that I've spoken to, not one CAPE student was able to get a sponsored position in the same year that they did CAPE. So nobody who just did Unit 2 in 2018 got subsidized to start medicine in 2018. A lot of those students who qualified but couldn't get subsidy ended up starting with the class in 2019, right? However, a lot more students didn't really know what their options were for getting subsidy, didn't know if it was a guarantee or not that they would get the subsidy in the next year if they took a gap year, weren't entirely sure what to do, and many of them just decided, we'll just take the full fee, right? I want to do medicine. I already made the grades, but I didn't get the cut. Might as well accept this, right? But that doesn't have to be you. If you're a student who can't afford it, it doesn't have to be a case where you're forced to be paying nearly $2 million a year if you get the bursary, right? Just to pursue your dreams. So it's tough to get information out here. That's precisely why I'm making this little guide. And what myself and other students have realized is once you can get your grades and meet that subsidy criteria and apply for medicine early enough, you're almost bound to get subsidy. I say almost because there may be other things factored in the process as well. But we've seen students do it even just now this year. Several students who got their CAPE grades last year, 2019, they applied for medicine early on in the year. They've been accepted to start medicine MBBS this year. Some of them got the letters in June, some in July, some are getting it up to August, right? They're getting in sponsored spaces, right? Just because they're getting their grades before the next year's batch of CAPE students. Likewise, SciTech transfer students were getting their acceptance letters, even though COVID pushed back exams pretty late into June and July. They got their grades, they got through, they got subsidy. So the key then we see is really just the timing, right? Once you can get your grades and get it in before the subsidy spaces are done, it seems as though you have a pretty good chance of getting in with subsidy, right? That's what students have been trying over the years. That's what's been working. So that's what I'm proposing to you, right? And it's simply put here, it's my hope that the information that I've put here will help you to make an informed decision, right? A lot of students have regrets because they didn't know the other options that they could have pursued in getting this government subsidy. And even so, even more so, at the end of the day, UWI, Mona, as great as medical school can be, right? As highly accredited as we are, it's not the end all and do all of everything. There are other places you can go to study medicine overseas. I have friends in China, I have friends in Guyana, I have friends in Cuba, and I've heard of other students pursuing medicine, the USA, in Europe, and similar places, right? So explore all your options. This guide is not necessarily to tell you what to do, it's to tell you what you can do so that you can make the decision for yourself. With that said, having laid the background, this is the meat of the matter. Right, so we're gonna start over here at this yellow bit that says start, right? Can I annotate this? Oh, I can. Okay, yeah, we're starting at start. All right, so you're in fourth form, and the question you're asking yourself is, am I gonna do CAPE subjects to get into medicine, right? Am I gonna do Unit 1 and Unit 2? If you say no, like in my case, where I actually didn't get to do CAPE because of some issues I had with sixth form, you can go to UWI, go to the Faculty of Science and Technology and do 1 year of prelim courses, right? These are courses that are equivalent to CAPE. You do that for 1 year, and UWI counts it the same as if you had done Unit 1 and Unit 2 in CAPE for 2 years, right? So if you want to do that, instead of doing CAPE, you go over to C0, C0, and you look at this pathway, right? But we'll touch back on this pathway a little sooner. Most of you probably said yes to doing CAPE, so you're going to find yourself at B1, right? So you've done CAPE, you've done Unit 1 and Unit 2. The question you're asking now, did you meet the subsidy criteria? Did you get 29 out of 30 points, applied for MBBS, made sure to put a BB MedSci program as your second choice, just because you have to choose a second choice, right? If you did do that, then we recognize you're a CAPE student, you're getting your grades in August, maybe even later this year in 2020. So chances are subsidy spaces are gonna run out on you, right? You can take a gap year, you can go work, apply early for MBBS next year, and you can get in next year with subsidy, right? So that's G1. If you say yes to taking a gap year and applying early, you can get in with subsidy in the next year. If you don't want to take a gap year, right, I'll tell you to go over to G2, right, which is if you met the criteria for subsidy, you can accept the full fee offer, which many students have opted to do, right? Only 55 students get sponsored. So all the other students that make up the 280 are naturally full fee paying students, right? There's also an option if you don't want to wait, but for the purpose of this guide, we're going to talk about getting into the subsidy. So if you don't want to do that either, but you don't want to take a gap year, I suggest that you go to D2, which is spend a year in SciTech doing level 1 courses. But we could also have gotten to D2 from here if, for example, you didn't meet the subsidy criteria, right? So I often talk to people as though they got 30 out of 30 points. The reality is, as much as we have a lot more students being high achievers and excelling, not everybody gets it on their first try. Some students, I have friends who've done this, they did over CAPE subjects until they could get the ones, until they could get the distinctions and all of that, right? Whether you just need ones. I don't think distinctions, the straight A's makes a difference, right? So that's an option for you if you didn't get the subsidy criteria. You do over your CAPE, do over those subjects, meet the subsidy criteria. Once you've done that, you say yes to that, you find yourself right back at B1. You're considering the same options again, right? So say you now have subsidy criteria grades, and you're now considering, do I take a gap year? Do I go work or something, chill out, maybe go and work on travel? You can't really go and work on travel because you're a student, but you get the idea. Or do I go and spend a year in SciTech? Unlike before where you could have done prelim courses, which are equivalent to CAPE, now that you have CAPE, you're probably gonna wanna do level 1 courses now, right? So again, you're doing level 1 courses. If you say yes to this, I'm gonna send you to C0, and C0 is gonna tell you about applying to medicine, getting in outside of CAPE grades, right? So from C, oops, I missed that. Yeah, C0 over there, right? Cool stuff. If you don't want to go to SciTech, right? Because you've heard about how difficult SciTech is and you don't think you can manage and all these things. There's also the option that you can go to BB MedSci. So you can go to the Faculty of Medical Sciences, accept the offer to do a Bachelor of Basic Medical Sciences program. A lot of people get this offer because they have a BB MedSci program as their second choice, right? And these programs have majors in pharmacology, anatomy, and physiology, right? It's pretty similar to the MBBS and DDS curriculum in the first 2 years or so, but it's not entirely the same. But if you complete a degree here in a BB MedSci program, so you say yes to this, you said no to doing a year in SciTech, you went to BB MedSci, and you said yes to doing the program. If you graduate with first class honors thereabout, 3.5, 3.6 GPA, check the admissions criteria to be sure, then you can go to G1, right? You can now apply to medicine with your BB MedSci degree, and you can get in with subsidy, as some of my classmates did, right? I have several classmates who have degrees in the basic medical sciences. If you didn't, however, graduate with the degree GPA that makes the cut, you're gonna have to either take the full fee offer, which is at G2, or you find yourself back at D2, which is go back and spend time in SciTech, right? So now that we're back at SciTech, we're gonna consider doing this. So here we are. We're gonna say spend a year in SciTech doing level 1 courses. Now we're here at C0, right? So whether you did prelim courses from B2 or you did level 1 courses, the idea is that you need to get 29 out of 30 points, right? You're going to be doing biology, chemistry, plus one other subject. You do it for 2 semesters. So that's 6 subjects / courses in all, right? You need 5 A's and a B minimum, corresponds to about a 3.8 GPA. It's really the letter grades that matter more. That's how you get your 29 out of 30 points, right? And that's a pretty high GPA, just so you know. But I assume you guys know this already. To get into medicine, you need to be the best of the best. Simply put. So yeah, if you get your 29 out of 30 points, and we say yes to that, you head over to G1. You apply to medicine from early in the year. I think applications close in April, right? Once you have your 29 out of 30 points, you're expecting to see an acceptance letter from the faculty by June, July, thereabout, right? I think I got mine on like the first few days of August because it was a little late in my year. And I came through SciTech, right? I did prelim, actually failed a course in prelim, didn't get through in prelim, went on from prelim to do level 1 because prelim satisfied the CAPE requirements for me to do level 1. Then I transferred from level 1, I had better grades then, got the subsidy, here I am, right? So that's your SciTech option right there. But let's say you do go to SciTech, you weren't able to handle it, you didn't get the subsidy grades, right? You now have the option being in prelim or level 1. If you're in prelim, you can move on to do the same thing in level 1 like I did. Or if you were in level 1, you didn't get the grades, you can spend the next 2 years, we're now at E1, right? You finish a degree in SciTech, a bio degree, a chemistry degree, or I think a biochemistry degree works as well. And there are a few majors that fall under biochemistry. Again, check the admissions criteria, find out exactly what it is that you can do. So that's an option, right? So you can opt to finish a degree in SciTech, and then it's going to be the same thing like BB MedSci. You're going to need to meet the subsidy criteria, again, first class honors. You get that, you go to G1, you get in with subsidy, right? You apply to medicine with your degree. Again, persons have done this, you can get in with subsidy. You didn't get subsidy criteria after that degree, you're going to be considering paying the full fee offer, right? The alternative, if you didn't want to do a SciTech degree, I would have said you could have done a BB MedSci degree as well, right? Or there's also the option to come back to C2, right, which is to do over CAPE grades. Because I'm assuming you being in this pathway, right, not getting subsidy grades in SciTech, you didn't qualify for the subsidy from your CAPE grades, right? Because if it was a case where you did qualify for the subsidy and you realize you had to wait out a year, if you went to SciTech in that year, whether or not you got good grades in SciTech, once you have good grades in CAPE, you should be getting the subsidy either way, right? This is why some people opt to just spend the year working and earn some money to pay towards their tuition when they actually do start medicine. But for many other persons, the CAPE grades aren't actually that hot. They want another shot at it, but they realize they do have a CAPE, they're still going to have to wait an extra year. Some opt to go to the Faculty of Science and Technology, do your biology, chemistry, plus one other subject, and you make your transfer application, your transfer of major, you get in, right? Tuition fees about $300,000 for the year when you include miscellaneous fees. And I think that is essentially it. So you can take a screenshot of this diagram if you want. And these are essentially the 3 or so options that you have for getting into the MBBS program with a government-sponsored position, right? You can do CAPE subjects, get in, wait a year, boom, get into subsidy the next year, right? Or you can go through SciTech, whether you do prelim or level 1, you spend a year doing those bio, chem, and other subject courses, transfer from that, get your good grades, go over. Or finish a SciTech degree, 3 years for that, get your first class honors GPA, apply to medicine, get in with subsidy. Or again, go to the Faculty of Medical Sciences, do a BB MedSci degree, spend 3 years there, whether it's ANAT, Pharm, Physio, first class honors, can transfer to 3 years, right? So there's the CAPE grades option, there's the 1 year in SciTech option, and there's the 3 years doing a degree options, right? Those are all the different ways that you can get the subsidy. I think one more thing I can mention that I didn't mention earlier, whatever position you accept when you go into the MBBS program is yours for life, right? So, or at least for the duration of the program. So if you accept the subsidy, you cannot lose the subsidy by, for example, having bad grades, right? Nor can you say, boy, you know, I don't really need the subsidy, I want to give it to my friend. You can't do that either. Once you accept it, that's the tuition fee that you're going to see on your student portal every year. You cannot lose it, nor can you transfer it. The flip is also true. If you accept a non-sponsored position, you accept a full fee offer, you cannot at any time transfer to a subsidized offer. You can't say, okay, I got really good grades in first year, I'm good enough for subsidy, right? It doesn't work like that. Once you accept it, that's the position you're getting. Because you realize the issue that there is already with the limited subsidized spaces, it would be even more catastrophic if students were switching up between subsidy and things like that, right? Last thing I can mention, this isn't the end all or the entire picture, right? In 2019, some students who were caught up in the same drama, very qualified applicants, but they couldn't get any subsidized spaces because they were all done. These are CAPE students. The government came in, there was a JLP at the time. They offered 47 additional subsidies. They said to the most qualified and to the most needy students. And so they sponsored their tuition for them from like 80% up to 100% in some cases. So there is hope, right? You contact your local MP, talk to the government, send out some letters. If you don't get the subsidy, there is still hope that, you know, something can work out for you. In their case, though, those students were bonded for 5 years. So it was still different from the original subsidized spaces, the 55 spaces that we get every year. It was a different condition. So those students will have to stay and work in Jamaica for at least 5 years as part of the conditions of they're getting that. It's more like a scholarship really than a subsidy, but yeah. And I think that's it. All right, so thank you guys for listening. Share this video with your friends. Check everything up with admissions and MedSci. And I hope to see you one day in medicine. Take care.